So Honda, I think you kind of screwed me this time.
This video is sponsored by Cruiseman's Garage Honda Goldwing Maintenance Video Series.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Cruiseman's Garage. Today I'm out in the garage and my objective is to reassemble the bike. It's a Saturday morning and of course I want to be able to ride to be with my friends tomorrow for breakfast. I just finished putting on my accessories, doing all my wiring. I got the bike ceramic coated. We'll talk about that in another video. But I ran into an issue this morning while I was trying to reinstall the left side inner cowl. And I struggled with it. It's probably been a year or more since I've even had to put one of these in or take it out. So I thought, well, maybe it's just been a while and I've just forgotten something. But the more I kept struggling with it, the more I kept thinking something's just not right. Something's not, it's not going together correctly. I could not get this piece here to line up correctly. I couldn't get the clips in place. And I finally, after almost an hour of the right side went right in just like it always does. And I thought to myself, have I forgotten how to reinstall this? Is there something I'm missing? What is it? There is a part of this center cowl, front center cowl, which sits right under the headlight. And it's kind of a U-shaped, upside down U-shaped piece. And that's where you see those little cheese grater looking holes. Well, I finally actually went back and looked at one of my old videos because I think something just doesn't look right here. And I could see in my 2018 video, yeah, they didn't install this correctly at the factory. It's off. It's not centered. It's dropped down on one side and it's impeding and getting in the way of being able to get this reinstalled. Okay, I want you to notice I have the right side inner cowl reinstalled. And what I'd like you to pay attention to is, you see this little scooped out area right here and how that fits right in there next to that, which is the way it's supposed to. This is the inner cowl right here. I'm kind of prying on it just a little bit. And that's how it's supposed to fit. Also, the bottom edge of this front lower cowl, which is the piece I'm talking about, you can see it sits up above that little scooped out area. This is the little cheese grater thing I'm talking about. That's the part, that's part of this front lower cowl. Okay, now let's go to the other side. This is the right side of the bike, and you can see there is the little scooped out part, and it's actually hitting. It's not sitting above it, it's actually sitting on top of it. And I'd say it's off by maybe an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. And there's no way to get my inner cowl. I don't know how they did it at the factory. I have no idea how they got that inner cowl snapped in place, and when I removed it I wasn't paying attention to it. It just didn't make any sense. Let's look at it from above and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now with the little Go 3 camera I can get in here pretty tight and show you how that cheese grater portion is supposed to be up above that little scoop. I call it the scoop. And it's clearly hanging over it right here. That's not supposed to be touching the edge of that scoop. So we're going to see if we can correct this. Hopefully that's all it is. Okay, I'm going to try to get my little Go 3 down in here so you can see what I'm talking about. If you look at it from inside the tunnel area, you can clearly see how the left side is lower than the right side. It's not supposed to be like that. That should be level. So you can see that it is off by just a hair. And there is the cheese grater portion, that's what I call it. So what I'm going to have to do now today is take the time to remove all the bolts on my deflectors, on the side deflectors, or I'm sorry, not the deflectors, the outer air guides on the left and the right side. You have to remove all the bolts so that you can pry them out to get to the bolts. And I'm going to have to remove that lower center cowl and see if I can reinstall it correctly. I know there are three. From the front of the bike, you can't really see a problem. It looks fine. If I'm correct, this lower center, or this front center cowl, they probably didn't catch one of those tabs correctly, and it dropped it down about an inch or a half an inch, and it's impeding for me to be able to get this back in correctly. Remember, the motorcycle is kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. All these little plastic parts and pieces all have to fit together correctly. So maybe you can see in the video, I'm going to try to do my best to show you what's actually happening here. And it was really frustrating. So the next step for me now is to remove all these bolts, pry out these outer air guides enough to where I can get, there is a bolt on each side, but they're hidden underneath these air deflectors, or these outer air guides. Okay, so I've got all the bolts removed. This front cowl should be loose now, ready to come out. There is a I guess it's the little thermostat connector that's still attached. I'm going to see if maybe, yeah, I think what happened was, it looks like, God, it's hard to say because it sure did not look. So I'm not going to actually remove this. I'm going to try to just reinstall it. I think what happened is, you'll notice molded into this, there's some little slots. There's 3 of them. And there's some corresponding tabs on the underside of the headlight. And I'm hoping what happened was, they just didn't get that little slot in that tab, and it was sitting underneath the tab instead of in the tab. That's the only thing I can think of that would cause that left side of this panel to drop down, if they just didn't get those alignment tabs in correctly. So I'm going to try to reinstall it, get those tabs lined up with those slots, and I'm going to look down below and see if everything lines up now. Okay, well, I finally got the left side inner cowl installed. I removed the front lower cowl from underneath the headlight, and I reinstalled it. I'm assuming one of those tabs was not lined up correctly. It's still a little bit of a mystery. Even after I reinstalled it, it still was not where it should be. It was off by maybe 1/4 of an inch this time, as opposed to 3/4 of an inch before. But it was close enough where if I pushed up on this left side, I call it the cheese grater, that little wing that hangs down, if I pushed up on it hard enough, I could get the left inner cowl to go into all the little tabs and slots. I don't know if it's a bad molding. I don't know if the plastic molding is slightly off on this bike, or what. I know that I removed this and reinstalled it on my 2018. I had no trouble at all. It went right in. I have probably been working on this for 2 hours just to get this left side inner cowl back in place. Now, I did not, obviously I don't have the middle cowls reinstalled. Fortunately, I left out the little rivet, the plastic rivet. There's one plastic rivet that's underneath that inner cowl that you have to remove the inner cowl to get to. I just leave that out because it's overkill anyway. It's really unnecessary. So now when I remove or install my middle cowls, I don't have to remove the inner cowl. I can just remove the middle cowls. So hopefully I'll never have to remove these inner cowls again. And God help the next person that ever has to remove those inner cowls trying to get those things to line up. This is the first time that I can recall pieces not fitting together the way they're supposed to. I did have one other incident, and my memory fails me right now, but as I was working on the bike yesterday, there was something else that was not lining up quite right. So I don't know if this speaks to Honda's quality control or what, but when I first removed that inner cowl and I went to go back to reinstall it, it was way off. It wasn't even close. I don't know how they got it installed unless it was being held together by the clips on the inner cowl, and when I removed those clips, it just kind of fell down a ½ an inch or whatever. But I'm assuming these tabs underneath here were not lined up, but yet everything else looked like it was lined up. It's really, really strange. I mean, there are nut clips on that have to be lined up correctly, and they were all lined up correctly. It's just that, I don't know. I don't know how to, it's hard to even explain, but it is, I got it done. You know, it took, like I said, it took a couple hours, but I finally got it done. I'm all bruised and scratched up from having to get my arm in there. So anyway, I don't know if this video is of any value. Maybe it's just me complaining and bitching and moaning about how hard it was to get that inner cowl back in. Never had it happen before. Hopefully we'll never have it happen again. But let me know if you have had a situation like this. Have you ever removed an inner cowl up inside here, the wheel well, and had a hard time getting one of them to go back in because this front lower cowl, which is under the headlight, it's kind of shaped like this because it has those little cheese graters on the side. Have you ever had trouble getting one back in? I never have, and I've worked on many Goldwings. I've worked on probably half a dozen 2018 to 2020 for sure, where I've removed those inner cowls and they've just always gone right back in. I've never had this situation occur. So I think it's hopefully a one-off. I think it may be a bad injection mold on this front lower cowl. I just don't know. Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and that really does help the channel. Don't forget to get your Maintain the Obsession t-shirt at shop.cruisemansgarage.com. That helps support the channel. Give it a thumbs up. I'll see you next time. And remember what I always say, ride often and ride safe.